Hello and welcome to What Happens Next, a series curated as part of Sahas's ongoing endeavor to equip survivors of gender-based violence and active bystanders with information toward empowered decision-making. Today, I'm joined by Swetha Shankar from PCVC to discuss what happens next in the context of contacting a domestic violence helpline. Welcome, Swetha. Thank you so much for making time for this conversation.
Having me quickly.
Absolutely. So let's start with an introduction of yourself and PCVC before we get into the conversation.
PCVC is a domestic violence service provider. We've been around for 20 plus years now, and we work with survivors of domestic violence and provide both crisis intervention services and long-term rehabilitative services that kind of help them get out of the abusive situation, cope with the abusive situation, the impact of abuse, and essentially live free of violence. And I have been with PCVC for 7+ years now. And I work at PCVC as Director of Client Services. I take care of all service deliveries that go towards clients. Yeah.
Thank you so much for spelling that out, Swetha, and thank you for all the work that you do. I want to focus on a specific area that PCVC has running, which is the Dhwani Helpline. Can you tell us a little bit about the helpline and how it works?
Sure. So the Dhwani Helpline is a 24/7 helpline that is available to survivors to call into. It's a multilingual hotline, so you will have available counselors who can speak in Tamil, in Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, Hindi, and English, and they will be able to attend to calls. As survivors call in, we offer crisis counseling, we offer risk assessment and safety planning, we offer rescue services in case they want to get out and they're not able to, and we coordinate with a multitude of other stakeholders in the space to ensure that survivors' needs are met, whatever they might be. A survivor might just call us to talk to somebody, right, and understand their options. Somebody might call to say, get me out of here. Somebody else might call to understand their legal options. So whatever their needs are, the hotline counselors are trained to meet those needs.
Right. And what typically happens when a survivor calls the helpline?
So again, this depends on what it is that they are looking for, right? Sometimes people just call in because they're not sure what the options are. You know how our response to violence generally is, especially violence within the home. It is often minimized or dismissed. And I think we are constantly told to adjust, or that this is how things are and we need to figure out a way to keep the family together at any cost. And that's kind of how institutional responses are too, very often, that the family has to be preserved at any cost. And often the price is paid by the person experiencing that abuse, right? And so people just call us to understand their options, if there are options, what can be done, because it often all feels like a maze. We don't know what options are available. So when survivors call in to our hotline, our counselors basically speak to them, listen to them, and that's the first step. Right? So we're there to listen, and we're there to understand what it is that they want, what it is that they're looking for. And there is no pressure at all to make a decision. Like, you need to decide today to do X, Y, and Z, you need to leave, or you need to stay. There is no pressure, right? It is a process where the counselor and the client together work on what could be potential solutions that they are comfortable with, that they want to take that decision. So at every stage, the counselors are trained to make sure that the agency of the individual is not infringed upon, that they are not here to be one more cog in the system that is telling them what to do and is being prescriptive about it. So as and when they call us, we have, and the other interesting part about the Dhwani hotline is that it's not just a call-in hotline. It's also a call-out hotline, unlike many other hotlines in the space where you can call in, right? So at Dhwani, we also reach out to survivors. So when survivors call us, we set up time with them so we can call in and check on them, make sure that everything is safe. We have a safe word. We create ways in which we can remain in touch in case their communication is being monitored, or they don't have access to a phone. So all of these are things that the counselors discuss on calls with the clients. So they know that we're not just giving them information for referrals and that's where it ends, but we will actively follow up through the process. So even if somebody calls us from another state, from another district, it's not just a referral given in that district, but we continue to keep in touch with the person to ensure that they've got the support they need. And in case that has not worked out, then what else can we offer that will work, you know? So it all begins with listening to them and understanding what it is that they want to do.
That is such a powerful affirmation of survivor agency, and very few have truly grasped the concept even in running a helpline. So thank you so much for spelling that out, Swetha. So sometimes when people observe an incident of domestic violence or they have information that gives them reason to believe it's taking place, they want to be active bystanders and they call a helpline. So in that kind of a situation, what typically happens next if a bystander calls instead of a survivor?
I think if a bystander calls us, right, it also depends on what kind of relationship the bystander has with the person. Are they a relative? Are they somebody else who's living in the same house but is unable to speak up but would like to connect them to support? Is it a neighbor? Is it somebody who's just witnessing an incident as they're passing through on a road? So it really depends on the situation. And according to the situation, we talk to them about what actions they can take. And these are actions that also foreground the safety of the survivor and their own safety. So I think it's very good and a very positive sign that people want to intervene and respond, right? And I think as a community, we're looking for more people to speak up against violence, to take actions, to actively show that, I am here as a support system in case you want to reach out, because I recognize that this is happening to you and this is not right. Okay. So I think that's very positive, but also important to ensure that when you have decided to intervene, you're doing so with the consent of the person involved, because there have been cases where people might say we have to do something, but what is the person wanting to do? And so the do something could be giving them access to resources, telling them that or just telling them that, hey, I'm available and I know that this is not right. And so if you want to reach out, if you want to talk to me, I'm here. So this is what we equip bystanders who call us with, the information on how to safely intervene and keeping in mind your safety and the safety of the person who's in the abusive situation. And of course, each of these interventions differ based on the proximity of the person to the abusive situation and the individual concerned.
That was some very, very powerful advice there. Intervention does not have to always be direct. Even just being available as a support system, giving information can go a long way. Thank you for affirming that. So what if the survivor calls in to the helpline asking to be evacuated? So just in terms of what happens next as a set of steps, what would that look like?
So we have different safety and rescue plans for different scenarios. So I'll just spell out a few. And of course, there are as many scenarios as you can think of, right? Like every case is unique, every individual situation is unique. So if, for example, a person has called us and said, I want to leave, I have access to my phone, I have access to my certificates, X, Y, and Z, right? Like, do I have access to everything and people don't, my mobility is not so constrained that I can't quietly leave. So in those cases, we talk to them about, taking important documents quietly, making sure that nobody is really suspecting that you're going to leave, and at very casually, on the way to work or, on the way to a grocery store or something like that, they just leave and come. Okay, so that's the situation where we are able to create space for the client to think about all of the things that they need to take with them, that it is safe, that I'm doing it at a time that I'm comfortable with, I've thought about it, all of that. So this is what we do when people have the space to some mobility, right, and some access to communication. In other situations where their phones have been taken away, they've been locked in the house, they're not able to get out, there are multiple things that we do at that point. If somebody reaches out to us and says, I need to get out, but I'm not able to, they've locked me in the house, we work with the police, we work with the one-stop centers, We work with the WHL, the Women's Helpline in Tamil Nadu, and we see how we can, through official mechanisms, intervene and get them out, right? And if another option that we have, if, for example, a partner knows that, they're locked in and they're not able to contact their partner and they know that they're facing abuse, and it's because of the relationship that they are in. And this could be because of gender identity or sexuality. It could be because of caste or religion, where somebody is locked up when the relationship is not being approved by the family and they're facing violence. In these cases, we approach official mechanisms as usual, and if it doesn't work and we don't see that sometimes they are receptive or it's not working out, we could also approach the court in terms of a habeas corpus or something like that, where the partner might file.
That was very, very helpful and insightful. Thank you so much for painting those very vivid images of the scenarios. Now, we talked about a situation where a person is willing to but can or cannot leave. What if a person is not willing to leave a situation that is abusive? What kind of help can they derive from the helpline?
So I think when we speak to survivors, we never frame their options as you have to leave or you have to stay and then things are really bad. So we talk about ways in which they can plan for their own safety. They can look out for themselves, like what are the resources available to them, so they can call us anytime in case things escalate. Do you have access to like a separate space that you can go and like lock the door if things escalate? Are you away from, like, say, kitchen implements and like knives and things like that, which could be used as, so again, these are different scenarios based on what kind of violence they're facing, how things could escalate potentially, but we are there to talk them through all their options so that they're not pressured into doing anything that they don't want to do. So people just want to talk. We are there to talk, but we're there to do the safety planning and the risk assessment so they know what their options are when things escalate. They can call us, and we have many cases where things have escalated and we immediately contacted the police for the client and stayed on the phone until the police have reached the location, etc. So we're there to kind of be on the phone with them to ensure that they're safe, they're inside a room, that help is on the way, etc. So I think in the larger picture, it's very important not to have these ultimatum-like options for clients. The only way for you to remain safe is for you to leave this place. Okay, that I think leaving is a process, and that's what we keep talking about, right? Leaving is a process. It takes a while. And there are lots of things for survivors to consider. It's very easy to say, why can't she just leave? Why are they just still wanting to be there? But there are many obstacles in the way of survivors who want to leave. The fact that we are conditioned to believe that breaking up the family is, something that only women of a certain character. There is a lot of character assassination here. There is a lot of stigma attached to leaving. There is genuine worry about the future. About the children's future, about what it would mean to leave. There is no family support in many cases. Even natal families, birth families are not immediately supportive of somebody who wants to leave. And there are very difficult decisions to make. These are not easy decisions to make. There could be financial reasons why they're not leaving. So these are all things to work through. This is not a snap decision. This is not something that you can just say, oh, she can just leave. So I think it's important to keep that in mind when we are. So there is also no judgment here, right? Like there is no, I've done a risk assessment. I've told you how risky this is. You should not continue staying here. And then when an incident of violence actually occurs, when there is an escalation, they might hesitate to call you back if you do that. So they know that then there could be guilt and shame from that they told me I should leave and I didn't, and now I'm going through this. Do I deserve this? It is very important for service providers to not be prescriptive like that, to not say yes, you have to do this, but facilitate a conversation where they're able to decide what they want to do.
That is so powerful. Thank you for spelling that out. This seems to be an area where a lot of survivors have raised this question. The point is, when you say there is an option such as a shelter, would you like to know more information about it? The first thing they say is, yes, but I don't want to leave. They will make me leave. So the misconception there, I think, was beautifully exploded. And thank you so much for the perspective on that. So one other question survivors have often come up with is, so I don't want to leave, but how long can I stay at a shelter? What are my options once I get into the shelter? So if you could just share a couple of things on what follows once a survivor moves into a shelter.
Again, different shelters are different in the way they approach things. Shelter interventions are very different based on what kind of approach that an organization wants to take. At PCVC, we've taken some time to arrive at the fact that we cannot put a time limit to somebody's stay. That different survivors have different needs and they take different times, time periods to figure out what they want to do and navigate through that process and make sure that there is no continued risk and then move out, right? So we don't have a specific time limit for somebody's stay. We don't say, 3 months or 6 months is when you need to vacate the shelter. So that's not how we approach somebody seeking shelter. So what happens is that our counselors are there to kind of create an individual service plan with each person. So we create an ISP with each person and figure out what are your goals now that you are at the shelter. What are the things that you want to work towards that will make you feel more comfortable, safer, freer, able to figure out what you want to do next, etc. And then we work towards those goals. So it could be divorce and maintenance and custody. It could be convincing my family members to understand why I've left. Convincing my parents and making them understand that this is not a safe situation for me, and I cannot do this anymore. So can you? Because I want to be with them, but they're not understanding why I've left, and they're still pressuring me to go back. So I want my family support. So can we do some family counseling sessions where they can engage with you and with this idea of me leaving, and can we address their fears, that kind of thing. So there could be like multiple goals, of course, that I want to go back to work and I want to make sure that I'm financially independent, that I want to make sure that I'm able to take care of my children. So whatever those goals are, in the individual service plan, then the client is able to, over a period of time, again, this is not something that as soon as they come to the shelter, they put down their goals. Over a period of time, as they deal with their trauma, as they deal with the crisis situation, and they get more comfortable, they decide what it is that they want to work towards, and we work towards that. And once that process is ongoing, people decide for themselves that, hey, I think my stay in the shelter is done. I think I'm comfortable. And I think I'd like to move out. Because the shelter is also not a space where people can stay for a really long time. Because, there are some compromises in terms of like privacy, that you're living in a communal space, etc. So once they know that they are ready, they move out. So there is no pressure as such. But there is creating that environment that helps people kind of decide that, yes, I'm ready to leave now.
That was really powerful. Thank you for the very subtle and yet always present emphasis on agency throughout all the answers you've shared, Swetha. It means so much. And I think it's very affirming for folks who listen in or watch this or read the transcript. Before I close out, I'd just like to invite you to share how folks may get in touch with PCVC, the Dhwani Helpline, any information that you'd like people to know.
The PCVC helpline number, 24/7 helpline number, which is a toll-free helpline, is 1-800-102-7282. Okay. And we have a WhatsApp number through which people can contact us as well, and that is 98408-8882. And people can contact us through the WhatsApp number as well. You can leave voice messages for us. You can, whatever your situation entails, you can use that medium to communicate with us. We have an email address, and we're very responsive on the email address as well, ddsupport@pcvconline.org. And we also have website chat from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Okay. So on website chat, our counselors are available. So if you log on to our website, you can chat with us on the chat bot on our website as well. And all of our social media handles, we regularly check our messages, and we will respond on our social media handles as well, on Facebook and on Instagram, Twitter. So if anybody feels like that's a medium that would work better for them, they can contact us through our social media handles as well.
Thank you so much, Swetha. If anybody didn't already catch that from just listening to this, all the information is on the description along with this video, or the audio version based on what you're engaging with. Thank you so much again, Swetha. This was absolutely enlightening, and more power to you and Team PCVC.
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you for having us, and thank you for amplifying our voice. I think it always helps to have this kind of support, that people reach out and are ready to put this information out and amplify what we have to say. So thank you.